1 week season.
OWS fam, the nation, my dudes and dudettes. Welcome back to Searching for Ceiling, presented by 1 week season and Sharp Football Analysis. This, the week 13 or week 3. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. The week 3 edition. Now, I want to spend some time. We're going to hear a Hilow monologue to start this week off because the whole premise of this show is searching for ceiling. There were some aspects of week 2 last week that really struck home to me how I was getting away from this idea of searching for ceiling early in the season and why it is so important to us. There are things in the NFL that we can't predict. So when we're in this mindset of searching for ceiling, we are looking for these outlier top end, top tier outcomes. A lot of that is stuff that the numbers, the tape really doesn't give us. A lot of that is stuff that we can't control. We call all of this, of course, variance. But how can we position ourselves in the best place to win the most money when that variance works in our favor? So for example, let's look at these Lions from week 2. We have no idea the motivations of these teams. We don't know, hey, this madman head coach is going to go for it on 4th and 5, up 3 scores late in the fourth quarter. We don't know, hey, we are going to come out against a divisional opponent after losing to a divisional opponent in week 1 and run up a 50 burger. These are things we don't know. But there are aspects of this beautiful game that we're playing that we can look to position ourselves in the best position to win the most money, because that's what it's all about. When that variance works in our favor. So we're going to structure this episode, this time together in searching for ceiling, really anchoring on searching for ceiling. So I've already preloaded Rich. We're not even going to talk about the Cowboys and Bears game. We know that has a game total of 50. Every other game on this 13-game slate has a game total between 41.5 and 46. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty today. We are going to truly search for ceiling. So with that, let's bring him in, Mr. Rich Hribar. How we doing today? How was week 2, brother?
Yeah, week two was hot. Almost, came away with an early Christmas if it wasn't for, too much Brees Hall. But
Yes.
we'll be happy we'll be happy to take our winnings in week 2 early in the season and hopefully turn them into something a little bit more in week 3 moving forward. Yeah, and I like the way you kind of introduced that and teed up this show, because this is kind of also our first like game theory slate, because this is the first time we have 4 late games, and the popularity of early, ownership, the way we're tracking it, is glommed onto the one game you said we won't talk about. So
Yes.
We're going to have to find ways to pivot off of that. And there are multiple ways to do it, not only for searching for ceiling in these other games, but the positioning of those players, the early games, and where are we getting our early exposure to for our hits and misses, because that will dictate how we play the late slate as well.
Right. And like you mentioned, the hammer on this slate is one of the 4 games in the late portion of the window. So in this idea of like searching for ceiling, we kind of have to look at like the state of the league. The state of the league is we're not like in the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees mega era where it's like these teams are going out and trying to maximize scoring with every time they touch the ball. They're trying to get better for the playoffs. They're trying to do all these things. They're trying to run up 40, 50 points. We're kind of not in that. The state of the league is not that anymore. We see a lot more outmaneuvering opponents. We see a lot more wearing teams down, trying to win smart. So that makes like these spots that do blow up and reach a 99th percentile outcome that much more valuable. So that's kind of the premise of like what we want to talk about today. And Dan Campbell kind of punched me in the mouth, as Dan Campbell does. Figuratively speaking, punched me in the mouth last week in saying like, oh, in retrospect, this makes so much sense. This team was embarrassed by the Packers in week 1. They come out against another divisional opponent. Like, it makes sense that they go for it on 4th and goal from the 5, up 3 touchdowns with under 5 minutes remaining to play in the fourth quarter. Like, that makes sense to me now. So beyond that idea of like there could be these hidden forces at play that we don't understand or don't know going into a slate. Typically, when game environments in the current state of today's game, when they do take off, it is typically somebody doing something special. it is typically a player going out and making a big play, and that just kind of ignites this like oh shit factor, I call it, where it's like we have to go and steal this win as opposed to outmaneuvering our opponent. So keep that in mind as we continue the discussion here on the week 3 main slate. Before we do that, though, I got to shout OWS, we're having weekly specials this season. You can go get access to the Bink machine, which is our version of the optimizer, for only $1 this week. If you are looking for something that is easy to use, that is very user-friendly, and is capable of churning out some high upside rosters, go check out the Bink machine at OWS. Only $1 for week 3. Use code BINK1. All right, got that out of the way. So with that like monologue and that follow-on discussion in mind, Rich, I want to throw it to you first before I kind of call out some of the games that I've singled out as potentially spots where we can search for ceiling. What spots do you see that there could be that path to that oh shit factor kind of coming out in play in week 3?
Well, yeah, I mean, we kind of want to look for these early games if you're going to be looking for your oneers and kind of your isolated plays. We don't have to do like the whole game stacks yet. So you said you kind of had one in your back pocket. I don't want to wait any longer. I want you to unveil it. I want you to unveil it. Let's just
the tease is up
here.
The tease is up. I want to talk about this Rams-Eagles game real quick. When we talk about like typically the ignition source of a game environment taking off being a player doing something special, I think we don't have to look any further than this Eagles and Rams game. Look at what Puka Nacua did last week. Takes a jet sweep for a 40-plus yard touchdown carry on the ground. We have Devontae Adams, who is still a madman in the red zone. We're going to move these guys around, but the fact of the matter is there is special talent on this side. Then we look at the other side of the game. Saquon Barkley had this Rams team's number last season in the 2 times that they met. We also have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, who have seen suppressed production through 2 weeks. I think there is a causal factor here at play. So let's talk about that a little bit. We look at the Eagles and who they have played. They have played 2 teams that utilized 2 high alignments at top 6 rates in the league. So we saw after week 1, A.J. Brown, it was like, no, I'm not injured. He's like, I didn't get any man. Like they didn't show me any man. I didn't have any like one-on-one coverage that I could go beat. We see his presser after week 2. He's like, I don't know what you guys want from me. Like, I'm not getting shown any man. Like, that's just what it is. Like, nothing's wrong with the offense. And we've now had 2 weeks where he said that after the game. And looking back, it makes sense. Like the Chiefs, 2 high heavy team. Week 1, 2 high heavy team. Both of these teams that they've played in the first 2 weeks are 2 high heavy teams at top 6 rates in the league. Who do they play in week 3? A Rams team that is dead last in 2 high utilization through 2 weeks. They are operating primarily from cover 3 and cover 1. I'm going to get the exact numbers for you here. Cover 3 at 44.0% frequency, cover 1, 26.7% frequency. That is madness as far as what we're typically seeing from defenses in the league today. So now there is a possibility in my mind for A.J. Brown to see his man coverage. And what do we know about A.J. Brown? Like, this dude is an animal against man coverage. So while I look at the tape and I see that like this offense is not structured the same way it used to be. They're not doing a lot of pre-snap motion. They're not using a lot of play action. It's a little bit more vanilla. What if that changes this week? What if A.J. Brown goes out and drops 80 yards on the first 2 possessions and a score? Could that be an ignition factor for this game? Could that spark the upside? I think so. So I'm extremely interested in this game with that. Like, do you have any pushback with that? What are your feelings after hearing that?
No, I mean, that's kind of like lockstep what's happened with the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles have been really kind of open to just saying, hey, we'll run the football and not do anything creative on offense. We'll just run into heavy boxes all games. And they just haven't been pushed to the degree where we haven't seen them do something otherwise. If you're into A.J. Brown, the last time he was on a football field with Emmanuel Forbes, bad things happened.
Yes.
Bad things happened because Akel Witherspoon broke his clavicle last weekend. Will not be up for this game. And Witherspoon was on the field last year in the two matchups between these teams. Arthur Juan only caught 4 of 10 targets for 54 yards, but with Witherspoon off the field in those games, caught all 4 of his targets, 69 yards and a touchdown. This is definitely kind of the neon spot if you've been in your managed leagues and been like, man, I've got nothing out of, AJ Brown through 2 weeks. Do I even play him this week? This is one you still at least want to give him more runway to go back to the well here in this matchup. So I actually had Arthur Juan already in my tournament player pool. So I'm pretty with you on this one.
Yes, you caught me off guard with the Arthur Juan. I was like, who the hell is he?
Yeah.
Real quick, there's a comment right here. Less talky, more buildy. This is not a lineup building show. We do that at 1 week season. If you want to go catch that, there's an episode released Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for roster builds. You can check that out at the 1 week season YouTube channel. On the flip side of that, I'm actually really interested in anchoring exposure to this game through Matthew Stafford, through Puka Nacua, and through Davante Adams. Why? This pass offense is extremely concentrated. Let's look at some numbers real quick. The Puka Nacua and Davante Adams have combined to account for 80% targets per route run, 75.9% of the team's air yards, and 64.5% of the targets in the Rams offense this season. We saw Matthew Stafford come within inches of hitting the 300-yard bonus. We know that at this stage of his career, he is an immobile pocket passer. He's going to need that 300-yard bonus. But against like this Eagles defense, that now their weakness really is their secondary. Their front seven is completely the strength of their defense. So if we're looking to attack this game, I think something like an ignition source through A.J. Brown, or an ignition source through Puka Nacua and or Davante Adams, and tying that to Stafford is a really, really sharp way to approach this slate, where if this game shoots out, you're now getting a bulk of the expected production from each team. Any other thoughts on like Devontae Smith and or Dallas Goedert if he returns, or Saquon Barkley, who's sure to have low ownership here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna also mix in Saquon just because of last year's, factor. Like if a guy had 500 yards against the team, I'm probably at least just gonna see what happens the third time.
Ears are perked up a little bit.
Yeah, having a 300-yard game in a tier. He had 4 touchdowns against the Rams last year. They were 70 yards, 72 yards, 62 yards, and 78 yards. And he's been running into heavy boxes so far at a 50% rate this season. Last year, it's like 10% higher. But the one thing about heavy boxes is if you get to the second level, like, hey, this is the old Adrian Peterson thing. Like, if you get to the second level, there's no one else there because they're all in the front. So that's how you get those long runs as well. So it's not necessarily even a bad thing he's running into all these heavy boxes, because that's also how you hit home runs. And if he's going to track to be like super low owned, especially on a week where, we're going to have a really chalky Jordan Mason at cheap cost and potentially a chalky Kenneth Walker if Zach Charbonnet doesn't practice today. You're not going to have pay up. We're just not going to see a lot of the pay up running backs this week. And that's pretty interesting this week because we have some guys like Bijan Robinson. Also, he wants to be called Bijan right now. So Bijan, it keeps changing. But those pay up running backs might not get all the ownership that they typically would get in the matchups that they have, because we're going to have some pay down running backs this week. So I'm interested in those two guys. I'm also interested in this as a full game stack as well for the other side, because Sean McVay has been operating so ahead of the defensive meta again. You go figure, he's completely changed his stripes from being like an 11 personnel offense to an under center pre-snap motion, play action passing game right now, which is kind of like the cheat codes right now. Matthew Stafford's been under center for 65% of his dropbacks. It's the highest rate in the league. League rate's 29.9%. His previous career high, Stafford in a season of under center snaps, is 47%. That was in 2019. And what playing under center allows you to do is the inverse of what's happening to the Eagles right now, because they just stay in static shotgun and don't do anything cool. It allows you to play all that motion and play action. So when Stafford's been under center, they've used motion on 71% of those dropbacks and play action passing on 77% of those dropbacks. On snaps where he's used both on the same play, he's 18 of 20 for 11 yards per pass attempt and a couple touchdowns. So maybe Stafford himself is not necessarily the most alluring play, but the structure of play is giving guys like Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams favorable looks. And these are two guys that are top 5 in the NFL in target rate per route run. They're the only set of teammates. Sean McVay also understands the assignment of get my best players the football. And that's
not
what we
only
appreciate
that,
about
but
it.
in creating space for them.
Yes. That's what I said. Yeah. Like he's using these hacks to get his best players the football, which we appreciate. And that's why I think that this game offers now you can't do it cheaply is the unfortunate part. We do have some pieces at quarterback this week that are cheap, running back, like I said. So if you do want to get like the 3 receivers involved in this game, I think you can do it still and build it out.
I think you can too. I mean, Devontae Adams, his price is non-prohibitive. AJ Brown, his price is down. Really, the biggest pay up is for Puka Nacua at 7,700. And then if you want to throw in Saquon in there, mix him in there as well. But yeah, like you said, you also mentioned the state of the running back position. I thought this was interesting too, where we have the value. This is the first week where it's like, oh, we have the guy stepping in for a running back injury.
Yeah.
Like we've seen the quarterbacks. We've seen some pass catchers. Tucker Kraft, you better be okay. We haven't seen it at the running back position until now. So, and these are good on paper plays. Like Kenneth Walker can be argued, but the matchup, the workload that we expect of Zach Charbonnet,
7-point home favorite, like
it's hard to argue, right? And then the opposite on the other hand for Jordan Mason, the coach speak all week has been, yeah, we trust him in a workhorse role. Look at who's behind him on the roster. It's like guys that their names start with X and Z that I can't even pronounce. Xavier Smith, whatever, yeah. But yeah, like we should expect that to be a highly valuable role. But that's also the secondary aspect of that is like Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson probably are going to see lower ownership than they otherwise should in these respective spots. So very, very interesting puzzle to piece together as far as building a roster goes. Again, not a roster building show. But if you want that, you can go check that out elsewhere. All right. So we got through that game. Any other parting shots with the Rams and the Eagles?
No, that's pretty much it. But I do like that you started there because that is it's fun because the Eagles have been so boring these first 2 weeks.
Right.
And we know it, and we know that there's too much talent for this to not kind of correct itself. Even if you believe that Kevin Patullo is the next coming of Brian Johnson, that Brian Johnson team still was 7th in the NFL in points. Like there's just too much talent for them to operate at this frequency for the whole 15 more games.
And if you look at the 2 games that the Eagles have been involved in, I mean, they controlled the game environment against the Cowboys. They really controlled the game environment against the Chiefs. Could that change here? Could we see a game environment that is more back and forth, that is like, oh shit, like what creates the oh shit factor? Like, is there a piece to ignite it? And I think the answer is yeah, like this could be a different game environment than we've seen the Eagles in to start the season. I'll throw it over to you. What game do you want to talk about next?
Yeah. What are we looking at in the early slate? I mean, Commanders Raiders definitely is one that perks my interest on a few wavelengths as well.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about that.
Well, one, if we're talking about searching for ceiling, we've got a min price quarterback that as of recording this show looks to be is like the guy, like an archetype we're looking for in Marcus Mariota. Jaden Daniels did not practice today. Dan Quinn said at the beginning of the week that he would have to log a full practice to be able to play this weekend. And they're coming off of a Thursday night game that he hasn't practiced. Like it's a pretty big signal. If he's not practicing on Friday after a Thursday game the week before, it's probably not a strong signal that he's going to be up for this game. So we only saw Marcus Mariota get extended action twice last season. He didn't start any games, but even though he did not start either game, He was the QB8 in fantasy points, 19.6 in his first appearance. And then he was the QB6 with 26 fantasy points in one half of football, only playing 55% of the snaps. He ran 18 times for 92 yards and a touchdown, averaged 9.1 yards per pass attempt. That sample did come against arguably the two worst defenses in the NFL last year. But for context, like his points per dropback were higher than Lamar Jackson's last year. Again, like that's not comparing the two. It's just giving you context of like that's where he was operating on a per play basis. And now he's a min-price quarterback. He's at home against the Raiders defense that we're not scared of on any level. So we're getting kind of one of these free kind of pieces to look at. But I also like what we have in this game from both sides of the ball too. We have some other guys like Terry McLaurin is in that very much AJ Brown bucket this week. Guy that hasn't done anything for 2 weeks, but go back to last year. He only had 39 receiving yards through the first 2 weeks of last season as well. So even though he's not stuffing the stat sheet, like he's been on the field for 94% of the passing plays. He still has 23% of the targets. Like Terry McLaurin is still a core part of this offense. Obviously, if we do get Mariota targeted McLaurin on 33% of his routes, just under 4 yards per route run. And we've got this Raiders team that is 22nd yards per target allowed to wide receivers, 24th in touchdown rate. And it's not just that, it's where they're giving up the plays. They're in the because Debo's had the run out the first 2 weeks, but they faced opponents that were geared towards Debo being good. You were on Debo week 1. I wrote him up even against the Packers. I was like, hey, this zone-based Packers team, like this is lined up for Debo again. But it's the big throws the Raiders are giving up. They are allowing a 60% completion rate on throws over 20 or yards downfield to wide receivers. We saw Kayshon Boutte beat them for over 100 yards in week 1. Quentin Johnston caught the 60-yard touchdown against them week 2. Like this is kind of setting up to be the Terry McLaurin kind of get on the board game.
I like that shout. There's another spot we'll talk about. Well, actually, the flip side of that game, too, you kind of look at the state of the Commanders. They're kind of built structurally the same defensively, where they're giving up that deep passing. Is Trey Tucker anybody that piques your interest?
I mean, you got Tucker and Thornton earning long balls. You still can play Myers at like a good suppressed price for his utility because they played on Monday night. Like he's got double-digit targets in every game, and he's what? 6K on FanDuel, under 6K on DraftKings. Like, what you're getting, what you pay for him. And then, Bowers, if he's up, typically has through a year and a couple game sample, pretty wide splits against man and zone coverage. The Commanders have been kind of shaky against tight ends. You brought Tucker Kraft. We saw that on Thursday night. And Dan Quinn plays an aggressive defense. He will mix in a lot more man coverage, and that has been more of Bowers' forte. And no one's really going to want to get to Bowers this week because they're going to want proof that he's healthy. So I even think Bowers in a tournament setting like offers a pretty much a lot of upside on the slate as well too.
I would agree. And just the structure of the slate, we're unlikely to see as many people paying up at tight end. So really like that shout as well. The interesting thing for me with Mariota is this is a guy with a very low career check down rate. Typically, he is looking for his first, second read downfield, and then he's running. You mentioned the 18 rush attempts last season in his 2 appearances. So for me, it's a very interesting dynamic to this game is like, one, the backfield really has no like pass catching guy now that Eckler is gone. So all of that like schemed usage over the middle of the field, if we're going to see that, and we think we should, in a Cliff Kingsbury kind of horizontal spread offense, brings me back to Debo and actually old man Zach Ertz a little bit, who is an interesting option after, he scored in both games this season so far. I was down on him in best ball, but he's kind of still a thing. Interesting get if you're looking to save a little bit at the tight end position. Zach Ertz this week as well. Any other guys to mention or any other things to talk about with the structure of this game?
No, I like this one. Like I said, it's got some cheaper kind of one-offs, maybe some guys that do offer this, like what we're looking for, that if these guys hit at 1:00, you now have a chance to take on some of that chalk that's going to be popular. If they don't, now we pivot to, and maybe we'll just do the separate game, the late games later, and maybe do their own thing, but maybe pivot off of that, because that's going to be kind of a big focal point is if you're chasing points going into the evening slate, like where can we get upside later? So maybe we'll just do that separate.
Right. The next game I want to talk about is the Cincinnati Bengals and Minnesota Vikings. This is a very interesting setup, and this game very clearly would have had a higher game total if it were not for the two quarterback injuries in this spot. Very interesting now with Jake Browning and Carson Wentz, whereas the structure of these two offenses is unlikely to change in one spot, and it is very likely to change in the other. Of course, we have Jake Browning, who is the check down king. His time to throw in week one was like seconds faster than any other quarterback. This guy is going to look, and he started 7 games at the tail end of the 2023 season, and it was the same thing. This guy is getting the ball out fast. And the difference, though, when we look at 2023 to now, is like, who is built to benefit the most from getting the ball out fast? Back in 2023, if we remember, Jamar Chase was not running a lot of these in-breaking routes. He was not running a lot of these fantasy smoothing routes. He is now. So back to the well with Jamar Chase this week. How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, this one's a little bit trickier because, a lot of people have been citing all the Browning stats, but it was such a different offense in 2023. And his overlap was he ran the offense the same way Joe Burrow did that same year, because before Burrow got hurt, it was the same stuff. Burrow's, ADOT was super low. He was throwing a lot of balls at and behind the line of scrimmage, and Browning just kind of operated in the same capacity. And that team also had Tyler Boyd on it. Who's not on the roster anymore. So there are moving parts to cite here. We just can't roll over like the 2023 splits and the production and roll it over here, because even when he came into the game last week, he ran the offense as Burrow did. The other component is they get different looks when he's in the game versus Joe Burrow for obvious reasons, right? Like he's not Joe Burrow. So, teams are not giving you a lot of single high. They're not giving you a lot of one-on-one stuff with Joe Burrow in the game, because he's going to beat that. So are they going to do that with Jake Browning? What's Brian Flores going to do? That's a fun component of this game. It's actually be fun like this next month, because the next month of games for the Bengals are against some big boy defenses.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to see how this goes. I'm a little concerned about maybe just like kind of if this game is just slow, like, because the Vikings have signaled that they want to run the football. They've even talked up Jordan Mason like all week about giving him a high workload. They're going to get Christian Darrisaw back, it looks like, potentially on the offensive line. And if they're able to run
he was a DMP Thursday.
It was a scheduled rest.
Okay, that's what I thought.
They wanted him to do a full practice and then have him the day off to see how he responded. Okay. So it sounds like he's tracking to play, but like, again, Friday, like check it out, see what happens. But I did see it was like supposed to be scheduled. Like, we're going to have you up, see how you respond.
Okay.
And not push you.
That's good to know.
So we'll see today. Like today will be the kind of the tell, like if he's full or not. So definitely follow that. But it sounds like they want to run the football. Are they going to be able to, TBD, because because they run the fewest plays in the NFL so far, the Vikings, but they're also switching to Carson Wentz. Is it going to be a game where they try to insulate Carson Wentz, or is it going to be one of these games where we saw Kevin O'Connell, like he's gotten production out of guys like Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins, and like how far away off is like this current version of Carson Wentz versus those guys? If I'm Carson Wentz and this is like potentially one of my last rodeos and I've got Justin Jefferson, I know what I want to do. I want to go out here and throw the ball at Justin Jefferson. Like I don't know when I'm gonna start again, but is he going to be given that kind of green light? Because I initially came into it and I was like, oh my goodness, Justin Jefferson's in such a high leverage play this week. And then like kind of looking at his price and like the potential, I'm like, man, like, and then looking at other guys in my player pool, and it's like I'm not as excited as I was, but I still could see the outcome where Justin Jefferson actually is like the supreme leverage, like the most obvious leverage play that no one's gonna get to. And it's just like, man, like if he ends up having like 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, and like Monday we don't play him, we're gonna be like, or we don't play him Monday, we're gonna be like, well, that one was in our face. Like, why did we do that?
This is a really good thought that just popped up on the screen. Bijan plus Al-Jair. Very, very interesting game theoretic play here. There is a path to 35, 40 carries for them combined. And against this Panthers team, I don't mind it at all. Very, very interesting. Anything else to talk about with this Bengals and Vikings game?
No, I mean, it's gonna be Jordan Mason's gonna be everywhere. So like we're gonna, he's one of those guys that in your large field stuff, if you don't play, you're gonna know easily too. what he did at 1:00, how that impacts how you play the late slate as well.
Right. And we have some hammers to talk about in that late slate. I'll throw it back over to you. Is there another game? Is there another game in the early? Let's structure it like that. Is there another game in the early portion of the slate that you want to look at here?
Let me ask you about your Packers and how you see
Mhm.
this game playing out, because historically, Matt LaFleur, when the Packers have a lead, they choose that they just want to sit on the ball. We saw this again in weeks 1 and 2, and they don't
Yep.
care if they're running it effectively or not. This Cleveland Browns run defense has been absolutely incredible through 2
Lights
weeks.
out.
Like
Lights out.
adding Mason Graham has been awesome. They're allowing negative yards before contact. They got the Baltimore Ravens to just say, we don't want to run the football anymore.
They
last week.
abandoned it. Yeah.
And Jordan Love historically, and actually this system, the McShanahan tree, right? They love aggressive defenses because they know if you're going to play a lot of man coverage and you're going to blitz a lot, like our scheme, like we're scheming guys open left and right. And they've got man beaters and Dontavian Wicks and
That's the name
Matthew
I was going to throw out.
So I'm just curious how you see this playing out. If the Packers actually maybe have a higher pass volume than maybe we would expect in a typical Packers favored by 7.5 spot. And then we've got all these moving parts of no Jaden Reed. And I would say, based on us being on the show, Matt LaFleur's commentary of Tucker Kraft not practicing today, that he won't be up on Sunday. So do we have maybe a run out here where, because these guys are cheap too? Like, is this a Matthew Golden play at 1:00, play Dontavian Wicks 1:00 spot at cheap, and then we see what we hit?
So on the surface level, I don't think that we're going to see a material uptick in the roles for Matthew Golden, Dontavian Wicks. It could be a point of like we have to because Tucker Kraft is out, Jaden Reed is out. But this is still an offense that kind of has very clearly defined roles, and they're looking for that piece to like be the all-around wide receiver or pass catcher. To me, that was Tucker Kraft this year. To me, Matthew Golden has the potential to be that. But as far as like Dontavian Wicks, I would expect him to play a very Jaden Reed-esque type role, which we saw is a very clearly defined role you still into 2025. So I would still expect this team to want to operate from heavy personnel sets. I would still expect them to be somewhere in the 55 to 65% 11 personnel rate. And the other interesting, I think I'm bouncing all over here, but the other interesting aspect of this game is like the Packers have been a phenomenal run defense as well. You look at the production through 2 games this season, it's Cleveland and then Green Bay as far as many of the underlying metrics that we use to classify a good run defense. So very interesting setup too. I think Matthew Golden is going to, so Romeo Doubs is like the primary guy on this offense because he does everything that a LaFleur offense is asking him to do.
Well, we know he's playing the more snaps.
He does the blocking, he does the nitty gritty. Yeah. So he's going to be on the field the most. When I look at Matthew Golden, I think this team is okay with Malik Heath enough to say we're okay giving him some run here. So I would expect that Golden's role is probably not going to materially change. I would expect Malik Heath is probably going to step into some of that vacated work. And I would expect Dontavian Wicks to kind of run a similar role to what Jaden Reed did. And I think they've structured this pass catching group in this way to give them that out to like, hey, we don't have to change our offense if we see an injury or two. Where I think is probably most interesting to me is actually taking a shot on a Luke Musgrave this week. We've seen the structure of this Browns defense to where we're okay targeting tight ends against it because they are so aggressive, because their offense or their defensive front is so elite that like they force opposing quarterbacks to get the ball out quick. We could see a kind of Luke Musgrave potential revival here. This is my read on the situation. What you got for that?
No, yeah, I was just curious to hear your take. Dontavian Wicks. Well, last week after Reed got hurt, we did see like a little like Golden got on. He ran more routes in 1 to 2 wide receiver sets than Wicks, which you expect because Wicks is the guy that got the largest bump from the injury. He moved into the slot for 60%. Jaden Reed's role, like you kind of laid out. but
Yeah.
his man coverage splits so far to open his career have been like amazing. Like, and
Phenomenal.
obviously, yeah, I mean, he's been for his career, he's been targeted on 33% of his routes against man coverage. To open this season, it's 42%. And there was a quote from him this week. They asked him about the Browns playing man coverage, and he got real happy. He was talking about, he's like, this gives me a chance to kind of do what I do. And, obviously people do the Dontavian Wicks drop stuff. When he was in on the hands team for that onside kick, everyone was going crazy. Let me remind you. He had one bad season with drops. He hasn't dropped a pass yet this year. He dropped 2 of 58 targets as a rookie. This year, he's been targeted at a team high 26% of his routes. Last year, it was a team high just over 26%. As a rookie, it was 24%. One thing is sticky: earning targets. You can't drop passes if you're not getting open. You can't get the football thrown to you if you're not getting open. So,
Right.
Don't worry about the Dontavian Wicks drops. Like, one, they're not sticky. Getting open is what matters.
And he very clearly, like, the slot role in this offense, like, can produce upside. And we've seen it from Jaden Reed. We've seen it from Dontavian Wicks before. I don't hate that shout at all. I really like that. I'm going to try and go jam him into a roster or two. Dontavian Wicks, Luke Musgrave, I think, are the top two from this Packers team this week. Top two shots, I should say. Top two GPP
Are you playing them with Jordan Love or just ISO?
I think you can. I think, and this is obviously, like, I hadn't really thought through this until you brought it up. I think you most certainly can. I don't think you have to at the same time. Because we've seen the way that this offense operates, spreads the ball so much that, like, we could not see Jordan Love be brought on, or we could not see Jordan Love bring 2 or 3 players with him as we kind of think through a traditional stack or overstack. So, yeah, I think you could play him with or without Jordan Love. I wouldn't play him both without, but yeah. That's a very interesting shout. What about the other side? I mean, do you see any upside with the Browns here? What about, like, this probably isn't the Quinshon Judkins, but we're probably going to see his role continue to grow. What did he see? 12 or 13 opportunities on 20 offensive snaps last week? Something like that. Like, they very clearly, like, he's their guy.
13 of 18.
13 of 18. So they very clearly, like, want him on the field. It's probably going to grow. This probably isn't the spot. Do you see anything with Cedric Tillman, David Njoku, Harold Fannin, anything like that?
Maybe the tight ends if you want to chase, just based on the way the Packers have operated. But I just think this is such a tough spot for the Cleveland Browns offense. I mean,
oh yeah,
the Packers, they opened up the season just absolutely nuking the Lions and Commanders, right? Like, offenses that we have structural faith in. And this is not an offense that we really believe in. And we saw that when they faced, like, a competent defense last week. I mean, just their splits with and without Micah Parsons, even on the field, are just crazy. So it's really tough. I mean, cheap Fannin on DraftKings, I get, because he's so cheap, and you get the PPR stuff. But other than that, like, it's real hard for me to get anywhere with anyone else.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I would anchor exposure to the Packers side if you want to get frisky on this one.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to talk about on the early slate?
No, I mean, do you see anything in this Steelers-Patriots game? Because both defenses have been so bad, and the Steelers have no healthy defenders. Is there anything here for you?
I don't know. I'm honestly a little bit more drawn to the Colts and the Titans than I am that game. But I wouldn't argue against if you're taking shots, just because we kind of know what to expect from both the Steelers and the Patriots as far as, like, where the expected production is going to flow. And the Patriots have just been so bad on the run game that they kind of have to move the ball through the air. So I don't hate it. I don't think that there is the same upside as what we saw in week 1 from the Steelers team. But I mean, again, on a wide open slate, like, if you see an angle, take your shot.
Really all I had was, like, writing it up was, like, these defenses are so bad, but then the offenses are still kind of, finding their way in terms of utilization. Even last week, the Patriots incorporated a different wide receiver rotation than they did in week 1, because they got
maddeningly for me, because I was on booty.
Yeah, they got Mac Hollins involved, so it kind of lowered everyone's piece of the pie. So I don't know if that's, like, a structural thing. If they're playing with a lead, they want to have Mac Hollins more involved because of his run blocking, or not. But that was kind of inconsistent, with week one. So it just makes it hard to glom on to anybody.
Yeah, I'm the same. The Colts, though, the Colts-Titans game, we'll talk about this one really quick. This is I think we have to have a little bit of nuance when we talk about this because of how good the Colts have been. They have scored on every possession but 2 this season.
No
And
punts.
no punts, no turnovers. Both times they were turnovers on downs, going for it in 4th down and missing in their last game against the Broncos. So is this a situation where it's like could be fool's gold? I mean, we were burned by the Saints last season after they went bonkers their first 2 games. Or is this like legitimately like we finally have Shane Steichen who has consistency under center and they're running with it? How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I'm 100% the latter. And Daniel
Yeah.
Jones from an efficiency stance obviously will probably have some recoil, but I don't think this is a Saints situation because, well, one, the Saints didn't just fall off last year. Like literally everyone on offense
Injuries.
got hurt.
Yeah.
Like literally everyone got hurt. Like, they lost 3 offensive linemen. Shaheed got hurt. Olave got hurt. Kamara missed it. Unless that happens here, I don't think this is going to be a complete house of cards because Steichen got a guy that's running his offense, and not just in a way like he's picking up the easy stuff like a Gardner Minshew maybe got to a couple years ago, but
Yeah.
he's able to even create with his legs too. Because this is a guy, when you go back to what he did with Justin Herbert with the Chargers, and what he was able to do at Jalen Hurts at the Eagles, like this is a coordinator to believe in. When you look at their actual talent on offense, the offensive line, while not as good as it was 3 years ago, is still solid and has core pieces. The 1 through 5 pass catchers are, as a unit, collectively one of the best 1 through 5 group of pass catchers. They don't maybe have like an elite anchor that is better than a team's 1, but their 5's better than a lot of 5s. When you consider they go, Pittman, Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell, Josh Downs, Tyler Warren, like that's really good group. And then they've got Jonathan Taylor. Like, I think if people are expecting this to just revert and Danny Dimes to be like complete pumpkin, I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. Like, will he continue to get 1-yard touchdown runs? Probably, that will probably add some volatility. I don't really think this thing's going to go away, though, to the degree of like what we did with the Saints. I think you're more on the Sam Darnold spectrum or the Baker Mayfield spectrum, right? Of where this thing's probably going to run out big picture. So you can go back to Danny Dimes. He's facing a team that, that they haven't been aggressive. The Titans aren't blitzing. They're 19th in blitz rate. They're 20th in pressure rate. And from a clean pocket these 2 weeks, 77% completion rate for Daniel Jones, 10.2 yards per pass attempt, 2 touchdowns. So, I have no problem going back to Daniel Jones. Last time these 2 teams played, Jonathan Taylor went over 200 yards. Like, I still think you have plenty of reasons to keep playing Tyler Warren. Like, yeah. So
Tyler Warren was on the injury report, missed practice Wednesday. He got back to a limited session yesterday. And Josh Downs went from DNP to full with an ankle injury, so he should be good to go as well. So we're looking at a full allotment of pass catchers. Like you mentioned, like top to bottom, this roster looks pretty good on the offensive side of the ball. I really like going Daniel Jones doubles in this spot, and I think you can do so with or without a bring back. I think, again, if you've been around me dating back to the off season, I have high hopes for this Titans team. I have high hopes for Alec Eomanor. I don't know if we're going to see play calling tendencies mesh with who Cam Ward is as a quarterback until maybe after their week 5 bye. This is a team that has an early bye week. I'm kind of circling the week 6 and beyond for this team. So I don't know if it happens just yet. Tony Pollard has been one of the least efficient running backs in the league through 2 games. I don't know if you have to have a bring back here, but I'm really, really interested in Daniel Jones doubles, and in smaller field stuff. You can just play Jonathan Taylor with Daniel Jones and say, like, I'm just accounting for a vast majority, if not all, of the touchdown expectancy from this team this week through those 2. Mm-hmm. For those looking for a roster build, I did build a single entry roster with a Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Warren kind of anchor on Tuesday. You can go check that out at 1 Week Season channel if you want to check that out. Anything else? Are you seeing anything on the Titans side?
No, I'm not touching any of these guys yet.
Yes. Also, for the Titans, talking about the Colts' paths to upside, L'Jarius Sneed has not practiced yet this week. Tavondre Sweat has been limited as he tries to make his season debut. 2 offensive linemen have not practiced in J.C. Latham and Kevin Zeitler. Actually, Zeitler got back to a limited participation on Thursday. So yeah, the state of this team is not in the best spot right now. But yeah, if you're talking about L'Jarius Sneed being out, wheels up on the perimeter as well for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll throw it over to you. Let's go to the afternoon portion now. We've got 4 games. We've got the Broncos and the Chargers at a 46.0 game total. We've got the Saints and the Seahawks at a 41.5, the Cardinals and the Niners 45.5, and then the late game hammer, the Cowboys and the Bears that we talked about that we're not going to be talking about at 50.0. What are the other 3 games that you're kind of, or potentially all of them? Let's talk about the afternoon portion here for a little bit. I'll just throw it directly to you.
Yeah, I mean, we got 2 really good teams in the Chargers and Broncos. The last time these teams played, they played a shootout in Los Angeles. It was 61 combined points last year when these teams played. I think it was a Thursday game or a Sunday game. I can't remember. It was definitely a primetime game though. But in that game, Justin Herbert went over 20 fantasy points, over 9 yards passive. As good as the Broncos defense is, and we do respect them, they have been these past 2 years coaxed into some shootouts. Obviously, they were in one on Sunday, but we saw it with Joe Burrow last year. We saw it with Herbert in this team. We saw it with Jameis Winston in the Monday night game. Like, they will play some up-tempo games and give up some big plays because they're an aggressive defense too. Like, they'll give up big plays. Vance Joseph actually changed up his approach mid-game in the second meeting because Herbert opened that game throwing for 16 yards per pass attempt against the blitz. And he was like, I got to get out of this. And it still didn't matter. He was still cooking them. And Herbert did that without really even any of his like main anchors having huge games in that game. Like Quentin Johnston and Ladd McConkey did not stuff the stat sheet in that game. It was a collective sum of parts game. Now you add Keenan Allen to this weaponry for the Chargers as well. And they're just throwing the ball so much. I mean, it's crazy. Even in week 2, they were 13% over pass expectation again.
They're number 1 in PROE.
Yep. First downs, 19% over pass rate expectations. Like, they're throwing it around a lot. Both teams in that game matchup last year went over 350 yards of offense. And there's reasons to believe both offenses are better than they were last year too. I mean, the Broncos have a better backfield than they had at that point last year. So yeah, this game is probably the one where you look at saying like, could it pop both ways? It's kind of the pivot off of Bears, Cowboys, and then we'll get the 49ers, Cardinals, which I think offers a lot of individual pieces that are kind of exciting as well. But Chargers, Broncos definitely has plenty of shootout potential.
Yeah. Do you expect QJ to see Pat Surtain shadowed? Yeah, me too.
Well, because they rotate, they've been rotating Ladd and Keenan on Keenan snaps. So Keenan's not been playing in 2 wide receiver stuff, but obviously they've run a lot of 11, but they're rotating Keenan and Ladd inside out.
So is this the Ladd McConkey coming out party?
It could be. I mean, because he's going to be able to work inside as well. You always want the dude that's going to get Riley Moss.
Yes.
Like, where's Riley Moss? Can we find him?
Maybe Keenan Allen just keeps scoring and putting up usable weeks too. Interesting. On the flip side of that game, where is the upside of this Denver Broncos team?
Yeah, this is a little bit tougher too to figure out because Jesse Minter has been really good to open the year. And neither game, while this was a shootout too, like Sutton really didn't ball out in either game these teams played. He'd get into the touch. He got in the box in one of the games. That's what that's the Cortland Sutton way, 60 yards and a touchdown. We did see Troy Franklin run the most routes a non-Cortland Sutton Broncos pass catcher has run the past 2 years. He was on the field for 87%. You've probably seen a lot in all your waiver wire columns this week. But that's been a steady drumbeat as well because, Sean Payton has pulled the rug on us before. But all preseason, it was all about Troy Franklin playing well. And then he played well in the preseason. And then week 1 comes out and runs more routes than Marvin Mims and has a solid game. And then week 2 basically is just a full-time player. So it's been a constant. This hasn't been just like a one thing that happened. It's built up to this too. So I don't think he's going to sweep the leg on us in week 3, as he says, local man ready to get kicked by Sean Payton again. But, cause Evan Ingram's not doing anything in this offense. like
Mhm.
through 2 games. So like it's got to be one
He's
of these.
hardly playing.
Yeah, it's got to be one of these splash play receivers, right? So like if Franklin's gonna be on the field that much, I would lean him. And then you still have kind of, this 3-man backfield, which is tough to diagnose because the fact that Tyler Bidet is like working his way into like this Travaris Cadet type role is not good for anyone.
Yeah, right. But hey, that's a hell of a name too.
I wish he
Um,
would just be batty. It's so
I
much
know, it's
cooler.
just fun to say too. Although Bidet isn't far off. Yeah, I like the Troy Franklin call, to be honest. His snap rate spiked from 59% to 83% in week 2. And as you said, was actually more than Cortland Sutton. I think I don't know if I can get to a full-on game stack. I'm less excited
Mhm.
about this spot as compared to like a Rams versus Eagles, but the kind of
Yes.
the skinny correlation is potentially viable here. I really like the Lad McConkey shout. He's another one of these pass catchers. Like he has not scored yet this year, when everybody else on his team has. This is the
Yeah.
potential, I think, for a Lad McConkey coming out party, and I really like the potential for a mini correlation here with Troy Franklin as that salary saver piece. Like that
Mhm.
shout a good deal. Couple things to clean up. Yeah, the Titans have a week 10 bye. That was a misspeak on my end. Sorry. They do not have a week 5 bye. They have a week 10 bye. And then this question effectively comes down to who do you pair with Kyler Murray? And I think you just say like it's both Marvin Harris Jr. and McBride. This is a spot for
Or
actually
none.
let's talk about this spot. Let's go to this game now.
Or none.
Um, or none. I don't like that as much.
No,
I
no.
like both. I like both better than
Oh,
none.
okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Cardinals and the San Francisco
Yeah.
49ers. For since the beginning of time, not really figuratively speaking, we don't target tight ends against the 49ers. Like we just don't. Why is that? They have one of the best coverage linebackers in the league. Obviously, we know this, it is known. But Trey McBride is not a standard tight end. He is not a guy that is utilized only in line. He's moved all over the formation, and he is very, very capable of beating one-on-one coverage over the middle of the field. So while the matchup is not there, I actually prefer saying I know kind of we have a good idea of where the volume is flowing through this Cardinals offense through the air. If they are forced through the air, we have a good idea of where it's going. So that is Marvin Harrison Jr. That is Trey McBride. We've seen the running back involvement in the pass game ebb and flow for years in this system. That said, this is a spot where it could uptick. So I don't even mind saying I'm going to throw in one of the running backs here into a team stack for the Cardinals.
No,
But
I know.
if Kyler Murray hits true ceiling, if he is the reason that you are winning a GPP this week, it is far likelier that that is because he has increased production through the air as opposed to him scoring multiple touchdowns on the ground. That's just not who he is as a quarterback in the league anymore. He's talked about it all off season. He's like, I don't
Ooh,
like
I don't know about that.
really,
Yeah, because he talked about running more, and he is running more.
really.
Yeah,
What I saw was that
I
he
have an
hates running,
inverse
and he's
take.
like, okay, yeah, let's hear
Yeah.
it. Let's hear it.
He talked about it
Hit me with
last
it.
year. He was reluctant to run, and then this offseason, I had to think about this in tears. The offseason, he talked about he was going to run more this year. He
Mhm.
was more open to running. He actually has as high, if it's sticky, it's 2 games, but he
Right.
is by far his highest scramble rate so far through 2 games, and no one's noticing because they haven't been pushed yet. And no one's also
Right.
noticing that the Cardinals are pass heavy, and because they haven't pushed yet.
They had a spout last season where they did the same
Yes.
thing.
And they're actually in the first half of games, they're 6th in drop back rate. And then in the second half of games, because they haven't pushed, they go to 21st. Also, no one's talking about this either, is this loss of Clayton Adams, also paired with this rejuvenation for Javonte Williams. One team can't run the ball anymore. And now one team all of a sudden can. Clayton
Yeah.
Adams' impact is definitely, I probably felt through 2 weeks because they're also not running efficiently. But yeah, he's got a 10% scramble rate. We're expecting them to have a higher drop back rate because they're finally road dogs. We expect them to get pushed.
Yeah.
And they should have to be aggressive. Also, in his career against Robert Saleh, he averages 24 fantasy points per game. He's rushed for 59 yards per game in those contests. And that includes 4 against 49ers, 1 against the Jets. So I actually think he offers like kind of a lot of ground production here. I actually bet his rushing prop and laddered it as well.
Okay. Do you see the upside in the red zone for rushing touchdowns wise? Because that would be the bet, effectively
Yeah.
saying you don't need multiple pass catchers.
Yeah, I mean, I still have no problem playing McBride. He has 3 games against Fred Warner, 11, 9, and 11 targets.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, if you're getting Trey McBride at double-digit targets, let the gods take the wheel.
Right.
Right? Like, if people... We did this with Juwan Johnson last week. We said, yeah, is the matchup there, but, like, all we care about at tight end is volume. And, guys that have opportunity, and granted, McBride to this point has never bailed us out of one game with a touchdown, but like Juwan last week,
just once,
just one time, please do it, Trey McBride. But
right.
I have no problem playing McBride. I have no problem playing Marv either, though. So if you do want to double, because we are seeing it, it hasn't played out so much in the box score, but they're trying with Marv. Like they're at least trying.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit bump in slot usage. He's getting more targets under 10 yards downfield. They're running more horizontal in breaking stuff with him. It hasn't played out to like through 2 games where it's been like statistically great, but they're trying. They're at least trying. And I think the 49ers offer some fun oneers in this game.
I think so too. I mean, you go right back to Juwan Jennings, who, I mean, very clearly we can argue about the splits all day, but he is like performing the best with George Kittle off the field compared to Ricky Pearsall. Any room to get to CMC, who is going to be another guy at the top that is at the top of salary structure that is probably not going to see the ownership he should here.
Oh yeah, you don't care. The workload is there as a receiver too, or especially on DraftKings. Like he just has so much value versus like a site on FanDuel where it's the half PPR, and because the rushing production hasn't quite been there, and they didn't run the ball when he came back last season very well. But yeah, I love these 2 pass catchers in this spot, man. I actually really like the Pearsall spot a lot, and I feel like people are going to be burnt. Like they feel like, well, I overexposed Pearsall last week and he didn't hit, but he's running all the stuff Brandon Ayuk ran in this offense. He, obviously, and like people act like Pearsall's been bad. He had a 100-yard game in week 1, was leading the team in yardage and targets through the first half of last week's game too. It's not even this guy's been bad. It's just that, he didn't have the run out I think people were looking for, but he's averaging over 20 yards per catch. He's averaging over 18 air yards per target. He leads. That's why he leads the team at 46% of the team air yards. But remember, we did this with Ayuk too, where like Ayuk, people would never like to play him because he'd be like, oh man, I'm only gonna get like 6 Ayuk targets or like 8 Ayuk targets. But this is the spot where Ayuk's role and like the routes that Pearsall's now running in this offense offer upside against this Jonathan Gannon defense. Like these are the beaters. Right. These are the beaters against these heavy zone teams, right? The posts, the deep digs. Like it's Brandon Ayuk in his career. Guess what? If you go look at Brandon Ayuk yardage, the top 3 games, guess against whose defense 2 of them came against? Jonathan Gannon. So I think Pearsall offers some upside too to go back to the well in tournaments as well, especially because he's priced right near Rome Odunze.
Right. Who's going to be just bonkers owned.
Who's going to be super popular. So
right.
I like Pearsall. And if you do want to, I think Jennings is just a good like core play. Like, what we're getting like in terms of target volume. Like if you want to play Jennings and Cashin as a core play, I have no problem with it. I do think that in large field, Pearsall is a little bit sneaky as well.
I love it. We're going to jump now to our hidden hammers, we'll call it. That's a good name. Hidden hammers.
Ooh, hidden hammers. I
like that. Yeah, let's go. Hidden hammers. I'll throw it to you, and then I'll give you mine. I don't think you're going to pick mine this week like last, so I'm going to throw it to you first.
We were on it. We were on Malik Neighbors last week.
We were.
My guy's Nico Collins.
Okay.
In the early slate, kind of pricey, but still like we've seen now the usage is there still. Like for Nico Collins, we just need the production to follow suit. But I think this is a spot for it. I mean, Jacksonville nearly allowed a huge game to Ted McMillan in week 1. Then they come back in week 2. They allow 3 touchdowns to the Cincinnati Bengals. Wide receiving core, 19 catches, 250 yards. Collins has gone over 100 yards 3 of his past 4 games against the Jaguars. Jerrion Jones got hurt last week. It forced him to play Travis Hunter a little bit more than maybe even they were expecting, even though he was going to play more snaps on defense. But Jordan Lewis and Tyson Campbell have been giving it up too on the outside, the 2 perimeter corners. Jordan Lewis has already allowed 7 catches through 3 games. Tyson Campbell, 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I like Nico Collins as maybe a 1 or 2 because I'm looking for a guy like when we're talking about these oneers. early. Like I want a dude that I want to have 30 points on the field, like
Right.
25 to 30. And I think Nico still offers that kind of upside.
I'm going to give you a salary saver for mine. And this is kind of a function of the game environment that I expect and the injuries that this team is dealing with. And that's with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And your guy is Sterling Shepard for this week. Sterling Shepard has been on the field in 3 wide receiver sets, 64% snap rate, 75% snap rate. We have Mike Evans, who's likely going to either see a Sauce Gardner shadow, which I expect, or see Sauce Gardner at an increased rate. And then we have Emeka Egbuka, who returned to a limited session today, but missed Wednesday and Thursday's practice. He is either going to be hobbled or out for this week. So that leaves Sterling Shepard on a team that is now without 3 offensive linemen that they started the season with. And we are expecting the Jets to generate some pressure. And Sterling Shepard is the guy who I think is going to operate as the ball out quick guy for Baker Mayfield, who we know this team is probably going to remain aggressive through the air. Another interesting aspect about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before we get off the air here is they have not experienced the same rushing success on the ground as they have last season. So if they're forced to move the ball in a different way, I think that could flow through Sterling Shepard. So this is not the same. This is not the same call as like a Nico Collins where we're looking for a 30-pointer. This is a guy that allows you to get to like the upper tier of running backs. And if that combines, like if Sterling Shepard puts up 20, 22, 25 points, and you get access to the upper echelon of player pricing at running back, I think it could work out here. So that's mine.
That is a dirty one. Yeah, I love it.
That's mine for this week. As always, y'all, thank you for tuning in. We're seeing those live viewership numbers tick up. 650 of you beautiful people are with us for today. As always, check out Rich's work over at Sharp Football Analysis. Do you have any shouts for Sharp for this week, dude?
I actually didn't reach into Piggy Bank this week. They probably have one, but I actually don't know what it is. So I apologize.
So
maybe if I get one, I'll send it over and they can put it in the description. But I actually have been running around like crazy this morning.
We understand, man. And again, we'll bring it up again for over at 1 week season. If you want to check out our optimizer, the Bink machine, you can do so for only $1. Use code BINK1. Until next week, you y'all, we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. Peace.
1 week season.